A 2016 study at Harvard Business School, led by behavioral scientist Alison Wood Brooks, tested what happens when people perform a ritual before a high-stakes task. Not meditation, not deep breathing, just a fixed sequence of deliberate actions. The results were dramatic. People who followed a ritual before singing, before math tests, before athletic performance consistently outperformed those who did not. The researchers called it an anxiety buffering mechanism. Muslims have been running this exact mechanism, refined to near perfection, 5 times every single day for 14 centuries. The ritual is called wudu. Most non-Muslims know it simply as washing before prayer. But that translation does not do justice to what wudu actually is. It is a precise, ordered sequence. You begin with the intention in your heart. You say Bismillah in the name of Allah. You wash your hands 3 times. Your mouth, your nose, your face, each washed 3 times in a specific order. Your right arm to the elbow, then your left. You pass wet hands over your head. You clean your ears. And finally, your feet, right before left, each 3 times. The entire process takes roughly 3 minutes. It is one of the most precisely specified physical rituals in any religious tradition on Earth. The question neuroscientists are now asking is, why does this work so well? In 2008, researchers at the University of Cologne, Spike W.S. Lee and Norbert Schwarz published a landmark paper in Science magazine demonstrating what they called the Macbeth effect, the discovery that physical washing genuinely clears the mind of psychological residue. People who washed their hands after making a difficult moral decision felt less guilt. People who washed after a failure felt less distressed about it. The act of physical cleansing, they found, translates directly into mental and emotional cleansing. The brain does not sharply distinguish between the symbolic and the physical. When you wash, something in you feels washed. But wudu goes further than hand washing. The face receives particular attention in the wudu sequence, 3 full washes with fresh water. Consider what this activates neurologically. The face is home to the trigeminal nerve, the largest cranial nerve in the human body governing sensation across the entire facial region. Cold water on the face triggers a well-documented physiological cascade. Heart rate slows, the dive reflex initiates, and parasympathetic nervous system activity increases. The branch of the nervous system responsible for calm, rest, and recovery. This is documented in cold water immersion literature going back decades. It is basic neuroscience. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, described something that sounds almost like a neurological process 14 centuries before neuroscience had the vocabulary for it. In a hadith recorded in Sahih Muslim, he said, "When a Muslim or a believing servant washes his face in the course of ablution, every sin which he committed with his eyes is washed away with the water, or with the last drop of water. When he washes his hands, every sin his hands have committed is washed away. When he washes his feet, every sin towards which his feet walked is washed away, until he emerges cleansed of sins." This is a spiritual reality, but notice how perfectly it maps onto what Lee and Schwarz found. Physical cleansing produces psychological cleansing. The Prophet letter FDFA described the effect before anyone had the science to name the mechanism. Nicholas Hobson, A researcher who has studied ritual behavior extensively concluded in a 2018 paper in Current Biology that rituals function as psychological transitions. They mark a boundary between one state of being and another. Before and after, ordinary time and sacred time, distracted mind and focused mind. This is precisely what wudu does. It is not merely hygiene before prayer. It is a neurological and spiritual reset. The moment you begin wudu, you step out of the noise, out of work anxieties, interpersonal frustrations, whatever occupied the last hour, and cross a threshold. By the time you finish, your nervous system has been physiologically altered. You are, in a measurable sense, a different person than you were 3 minutes ago. The Quran speaks about wudu in Surah Al-Ma'idah, in the 6th ayah. O you who have believed, when you rise to perform prayer, wash your faces and your forearms to the elbows, and wipe over your heads, and wash your feet to the ankles. What is striking here is not just the command, it is the precision. Every step specified. Sequence matters. Completeness matters. Repetition matters. In ritual science, this specificity is not incidental. Researchers have found that the more precise and invariant a ritual sequence, the stronger its psychological effects. A vague general instruction to cleanse yourself would not produce what wudu produces. The exact sequence is the mechanism. Consider what this means across a lifetime. A Muslim who prays 5 times daily performs wudu conservatively 4 times a day. That is roughly 1,460 intentional neurological resets every year. Over 60 years of prayer, that is nearly 90,000 moments of deliberate transition from distracted to present, from burdened to cleansed, from ordinary time to divine time. The cumulative effect on a human personality, on one's capacity for patience, focus, and emotional regulation, is something no single study can fully capture. There is also the element of water itself. The Quran describes water as the origin of all living things. In Surah Al-Anbiya, we made from water every living thing. Water is not merely the medium of wudu. It carries deep Quranic significance. Every encounter with water in the wudu sequence is also an encounter with this remembrance. As you wash, you are not merely removing physical impurity. You are touching the substance from which life was created, in the context of preparing to stand before the Creator of life. This is the layering of meaning that makes Islamic practice so dense. There is always more beneath the surface. The Prophet FDFA also described something remarkable about the spiritual anatomy of wudu. In a hadith found in Sahih Muslim, he indicated that on the Day of Judgment, the Muslim community will be recognized by the light radiating from the places of wudu, the face, the hands, the feet. This light, called Gura and Tajil, is the permanent mark left by a lifetime of ablution. Whatever we think of the metaphysics of that statement, there is something profound in the image, that a practice repeated thousands of times becomes written into your being until it is visible. The ritual shapes the person becomes the ritual. What is remarkable about wudu is that it accomplishes simultaneously what modern psychology spends considerable effort trying to teach separately: mindfulness, the focused awareness of each deliberate action; grounding, the physical sensation of water, temperature, and texture; transition rituals, marking the boundary between states; and self-compassion, the recognition that one can always return to purity, that spiritual dirt does not have to be permanent. Islam did not separate these into different workshops or self-help frameworks. It wove them into a 3-minute practice that fits between work and prayer, between kitchen and mosque, between ordinary and sacred. Imam al-Ghazali, the great 11th century Islamic scholar, wrote in his Ihya Ulum al-Din that the outward wudu of water is incomplete without the inward wudu, the washing of the heart from heedlessness, from arrogance, from resentment. The body and the soul purify together, or the purification is incomplete. This is not mysticism for its own sake. It is a recognition that human beings are integrated creatures. What we do with our bodies matters to our souls, and what lives in our souls shapes what our bodies do. Modern psychology is only beginning to rediscover this integration. Islam built it into the daily schedule 14 centuries ago. The next time you make wudu, whether it is the first time or the 10,000th, pause before you begin. This practice was prescribed by revelation, refined by prophetic example, and now, slowly, confirmed by science. You are not performing an obligation mechanically. You are resetting a nervous system. You are crossing a threshold. You are washing away what the last few hours made of you, so that you can stand before Allah as who you truly are. Subscribe to Faith Decoded for more insights, where ancient wisdom meets modern understanding.